What's up guys, Duarte here with another Marvel Strike Force video, and today we are back for another tier list, this time for the bio characters. And this tier list is for the Doom raids. The Doom raids are going to be very important. Supposedly it's the way you are going to be able to unlock ISO 8 level 2, the blue ISO 8, the tier 2 of ISO 8, making your characters even more powerful. So hopefully this tier list will help you out focusing on which characters you should gear up to 14 and even gear tier 15, so you can get this new tier of ISO 8. And like always, the information on this video is very important, so make sure you share it with your friends on Facebook and Discord. If you are new to my channel, make sure you subscribe for more Marvel Strike Force content, and make sure you smash that like button. Now I have to explain it. I think I didn't make it clear. This tier list is based on my playstyle and on my personal experience on the boss node. This tier list is not relevant to the other nodes that do not include the boss node, but supposedly the boss node is going to be the hardest, so that's what I decided to focus on. And I think if these characters are good for the boss node, they're also going to be good for the other nodes. Now, something that we are going to take a look in terms of the enemies before we start the tier list is that we have mostly heroes. We have a few enemies that apply a lot of negative effects: offense down, stun, heal block, slows, and so on. And we also have Falcon giving the turn meter, and the Squirrel Girl doing the removal of buffs. They don't have many tanks, they only have one. And for the specific tier list, for the bio list, it's important to mention that we don't have any enemies that are villain tech, and this is going to be relevant in terms of Black Bolt and his utility. They only have one tank, and the tank is Colossus, so he's hard to deal with. He has really high resistance, so that's something we also should have into consideration. So we'll need characters that can apply stuns, that can remove taunts, that can remove heal blocks, and that can withstand the attacks of all these teams. Even that they don't have the highest damage, we need to pay attention because they have the Falcon, and that will give them extra turns. And because of all the heal blocks and so on, we need mitigation, we need debuff removal and so on. So the tier list is going to be based on that. And with that in mind, let's get started and let's take a look at the F tier. So this is the characters that you should not invest at all. Okay, some technical difficulties. So here we go. Here we have the characters, and the first two we have the Ravager, something Bruiser, I think. Is very useless. He can taunt, he can give defense up to himself, but beyond that he doesn't do anything special. Then we have a few Kree minions. The leader of the Kree team right now for the minions is Ronan, and Ronan is a Mystic character, so he's not going to be included here. So these two Kree minions are excluded from anything useful. Then we have Miles. Miles is a Hero Spider-Verse character, so he gets bonuses from the Symbiote Spider-Man passive. He also gets some effects from other characters, but overall his utility is not great. He can apply defense down, he can apply disrupt. That's okay against Colossus, but it's not like super relevant. So I decided to put him on the F tier. I think he's okay here. Then we have the A minions, and they're not great as well. They don't have they have Graviton here, but because they don't have Scientist Supreme, they don't work too well, and the amount of stats that Graviton gives to them, it's not very relevant. Then we have the Winter Soldier. He does single target damage. He doesn't get any buffs apart from Baron Zemo. Baron Zemo is a skill character, so he's not here, and that's it. Then we have Daredevil. Daredevil, he's part of the Defenders team and also of the Shadowland team. The Defenders team, they don't have stats to compete in this type of raids, so he is down here because he does mostly damage, and that's it. And the Shadowland team has a lot of skill characters and mystic characters, and of course they are not part of this. Then we have Miss Marvel. She is somewhat of a leader of the Hero Brawlers, and her utility is not great, so she's down here. Green Goblin doesn't do anything special without Dr. Octopus, because that's the only way he can get higher stats, and overall his utility is not much beyond his passive, and even so in this regard it's not very important because most of the enemies don't have many positive effects, so his passive is quite irrelevant. And then we have Red Skull, and Red Skull is okay, but without his minions giving him buffs and so on, he's not very relevant as well. And some of the minions are tech, others are skill, others are I don't think there is any bio, but you can see that without them this is going to be a problem. So this is the F tier. Now we are going to take a look at the E tier, and of course on the E tier the characters will be a little bit better. And the first character we have on the E tier is Captain Marvel. And Captain Marvel, she does okay damage, but it's mostly single target damage. And with her passive, she can heal herself, and she can also give extra HP to military allies. There are a few military allies, but only one is relevant. And based on that, I decided to put her down here. And then we have Rhino. We have a few Sinister Six characters, but without Dr. Octopus, they cannot make a team. And Rhino is okay, but he doesn't have the greatest or the highest utility, so he has to be down here. Just because he has the stats, he has minor utility, but that's it. Then we have Quake, and Quake, she has a lot of utility. She has the slow for 2 turns, she can apply offense down, she can remove buffs from the enemies. The problem is that her focus is not so great, and she's not the fastest character. The utility, the slow is okay, it's on the basic, but the ultimate, it's kinda on a long cooldown, so she's okay character. I just think she's not relevant enough to be higher than this, especially because of her lack of focus, and sometimes she's not reliable enough to be relevant. Then we have Drax. And we can also talk about Mantis and Groot. They are a few of the Guardian members we have on the bio group, and unfortunately they don't have the highest stats. They are one of those OG teams that have really fall behind. Drax could be okay with that early taunt to eat some of those stuns from Graviton and that early burst damage. He would be okay for that, but after that he doesn't have anything. His special is good, but because it's locked behind a big cooldown and so on, it doesn't become very relevant. And then Mantis, she does okay in raids, but Mantis, she never had the chance to shine. She can do a stun on spawn, and she can bypass the heal block, but it's only for one target, so it's not super relevant. And she can transfer negative effects to the enemies, but it's still not good enough. And the Groot, he can apply defense up, death proof, he can apply slow to the enemies that attack him, he can remove negative effects, but without Rocket, without that taunt mechanic that he has, he's not super relevant. So that's why he's down here, even that he has some utility. And one of the problems of these characters is that they are very, very slow. And contrary to that, we have Stature and we have Kree Royal Guard. They are fast tanks, and that's good for that early taunt, but after the taunt they don't have anything else, and both of them don't have any block mechanic or anything, so they will always hit, they will always get everything in their face, and this is something we don't want. Then we have the Graviton. Graviton, you can apply slow to several targets, but just for one turn. He has that stun on 5 cooldown, that's decent. And then that's just it, because he doesn't have the stats, he doesn't have any synergy without Scientist Supreme, but she's tech, so that's why he's down here. He doesn't have the team and he doesn't have the synergies to go along. And utility is good, but not good enough to be relevant. Then we have the Thing, and the Thing, he actually has no utility, he's just a wall of stats. But because most of the team where he belongs is on this category on the bio category, I decided to put him not on the F tier but on the E tier, because he can get so much stuff in his face before he dies, and Unfortunately, it doesn't have a taunt. If he would have a taunt, he would be way better. So yeah, he's down here. And then we have Luke Cage, not on the F tier, surprisingly. He can give defense up to his allies, he can give energy, he has a taunt. The problem why he's on the E tier, and he could possibly be on the D tier based on his abilities, is that he doesn't have the stats and he also doesn't have the speed. He is so slow that whenever he goes, it's already too late, and especially when you are facing characters that can apply ability block, slow stun, and so on, he's going to be so late to the party that the party will be over when he arrives. Okay, so that's the E tier. Now let's take a look at the D tier. And as you can see, now we have a lot of famous characters that unfortunately, from lack of synergy or from lack of utility, they are down here. So first we have Lady Electro. She's great with Doc Ock, but without Doc Ock, without that extra 40% health and the block chance, she's not that great because she dies too fast. She can apply that offense down for 2 turns. It's very, very good, but unfortunately without the 40% extra HP, she just dies way too fast. Then we have Hulk. Hulk, he is okay. He can remove buffs from himself. He can taunt and get counters and heal himself and do some cool mechanics. The problem is that it's just not enough, and he doesn't have a team around him that would make him useful. The same goes for Call Obsidian. It's exactly the same as Hulk. They are cool characters. They have cool mechanics for these, the auto healing, the nice damage, the buffs. Hulk gets the counters and death proof. Call Obsidian gets more death proofs than Hulk, but still it's not good enough, and because of that, and because they don't have any team good enough to be on, they are down here. Then we have Crystal, and Crystal, she's a very good character. She has a very good passive. The problem is that her passive only activates once, and her passive grants healing 40% of her base health, and also removes negative effects. That would be very good, but because that's only once per turn, it's just not good enough. And from her kit, she can apply slow to a single target, and that's it. Apart from that, she just does a lot of damage because she's mostly a blaster. And unfortunately, she has to be down here on the D tier, and it's mostly because of Black Bolt and the other characters of the Inhumans that can be together with her. Then we have the OG Spider-Man, and this guy is here on the D tier. He has really crappy stats. He gets a little bit better with Symbiote Spider-Man, but it's still not good enough. He's just here because of his dodge chance and because of his stun. I think that's relevant enough to give him some survivability. He also is decently cheap in terms of gear to gear him up, but beyond that he doesn't have much utility. Then we have Swarm. Swarm does decent amount of effects with his special, but his single target he does okay damage. The best thing about Swarm is that he has huge stats and he does a nice amount of damage, and whenever you apply negative effects to him, as long as it's not stunned, he can flip them and make them into positive effects. So as long as he's not overwhelmed by negative effects or be affected by stun, he can survive some stuff to the face and become and make it a benefit to him rather than something negative. Unfortunately, like the other Sinister Six characters, he doesn't have Dr. Octopus, so he's not going to be as good as he could be. And because he's also limited by the amount of charges he has, and because we have no way to revive him, he will always be limited to those 4 charges that he gets on the spawn or something like this. Johnny Storm is very similar to Human Torch. He's very similar to Swarm. He can flip negative effects on himself. He's immune to bleed. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a lot of HP, and it's not a huge problem, but it can become a problem. Most of the enemies that we face, they do decent amount of damage, but it's not like insane burst damage. So maybe he could survive a little bit, but you need constant mitigation of offense down and defense offense down on the enemies and defense up on your team and deflects and so on for him to survive. And yes, Invisible Woman is here and so on, I'm just not sure if he is going to be strong enough to withstand the raid, and especially because his ultimate has a huge cooldown, and for me that's the worst part. If the ultimate would have a little bit less cooldown, I think he would be C tier easily. Then we have Black Bolt, and Black Bolt is a damage machine, but in terms of utility he doesn't have much here. Once again, there are no villain tech enemies, so he's not going to do any extra damage to anyone. And we have inhuman characters. He gives 50% extra HP to them, and that's why some of them are so high. But at the same time, it's just not enough. Unfortunately, we need more inhuman characters to make this team relevant, because right now it's just not enough. And then we have Jessica Jones. She's so high here on the D tier because of her utility and the energy she provides, and because she also can remove the taunt from Colossus, that can be useful. And finally, and this one might be controversial for the D tier, is Carnage. And Carnage, he does mostly damage. I think he's very overrated just because he does speed or turn meter to the symbiote allies, which is very good, but if you don't have a summoner to feed on that, it's not going to be that relevant. And as you guys can see, there is no summoner, so it will take a while to kill each of the enemies, and based on that will not benefit much out of his passive. So because of that, and because how inconsistent his basic is in spreading negative effects, I think he's just good enough to be on the D tier. Okay, so let's take a look at the C tier. And on the C tier we have three characters. We have Mr. Fantastic, Venom, and Yo-Yo. And Yo-Yo is here because she's not farmable, and while she's decent on this specific situation, and because we have several enemies that can apply stun, if she is stunned, her passive will not work, and that can be a problem, of course. So it's something we have to take into consideration. And because she is a protector and she cannot have any other protectors with her, if you don't have anyone to get taunt to protect her from her getting stunned, then it's going to be a problem, and that's why she is good but not good enough. And Mr. Fantastic is here. He has a lot of HP together with the other Fantastic Four characters. He gets pretty strong. The problem is that he lacks on utility. He can remove buffs from the enemies, but like I said before, the enemies don't have many buffs. And he can apply a stun. If you do the T4, it's 100% chance, but because it's only single target and his utility is just that, I just don't think he's good enough to be anywhere beyond the C tier. Venom, he's higher than Carnage. He's way better than Carnage. He can spread negative effects consistently with his ultimate. He can remove buffs from the enemies, flip them into negative effects, and he can apply a very important heal block. If you can extend this heal block and then spread it around with combinations with Symbiote Spider-Man and with Scream, you get huge value out of it. And because he can give defense up to the entire team of the symbiotes, he has way more value and utility and so on than Carnage. So that was the C tier for you. Now let's take a look at the B tier. And on the B tier we have Captain America and we have She-Hulk. She-Hulk, she's here because of not only her immense stats, and she gets even higher stats with the other Fantastic Four allies. She can also apply stun, she can also apply defense down that will allow you to nuke down one of the enemies as fast as possible in order to protect yourself, because if you can kill your enemies faster than they can kill you, that's a way to protect yourself as well. And because whenever she goes on stealth, she heals herself for a massive amount of health, so she has a lot of self-healing, and she can also reflect negative effects from herself and from Fantastic Four allies to the enemies, so it's a way to clear negative effects from the team. Then on the B tier we also have Captain America, and Captain America is here because he's very good. He gives HP to himself and the other Wave 1 Avenger allies. That's not so relevant here, but because he has the block chance, he's way better than the other protectors we have seen before, like Luke Cage, Stature, and the Kree Royal Guard. And because he can also remove buffs from the enemies with his special, and he can also give energy. Energy is very, very important, and if you have him together with other characters that can benefit out of that, it's going to be quite amazing if you put him together with, for example, Anti-Venom or Symbiote Spider-Man, and they will get their cooldowns way faster. Captain America, just based on that alone, has a lot of utility. He can also give defense up to himself with his basic. He can also give defense up to the entire team with the T-Force, so he's quite good, but especially because of the energy and because of the block chance, I think he's way higher utility than any other protector we have here. And now let's take a look at the A tier. And on the A tier we have Scream, Squirrel Girl, and Invisible Woman. Scream, she's here because she's just amazing. She can apply offense down to the enemies, she can apply disrupt to the enemies, she can apply turning one to the enemies, slow for 2 turns, and she can remove buffs, attack enemies on stealth. She can do self-healing with her passive and also with a passive from Symbiote Spider-Man. So she has a lot of utility, she has really high damage. She is one of my recommendations for Dark Dimension 4, and she's fairly cheap to gear up. So I think she's a very powerful character to be used on this, and therefore she's on the A tier. Then we have Squirrel Girl. Squirrel Girl, not only she provides healing, she provides utility by removing negative effects from your team. She can apply offense down to the enemies, and to herself and other Young Avenger allies she can also apply defense up whenever they go below 50% or 40% or something, I can't remember exactly. But she's mostly here because of all the utility she has, and she's overall a good character, I would say. Unfortunately, she doesn't have the team to make to have like a path to a team, but she's a very plug and play character, so wherever you place her, she will be good. And the same goes for Invisible Woman. Now we can see Invisible Woman as a Fantastic Four ally, or by herself as a plug and play character. She has a lot of versatility, and she can apply offense down, a barrier, defense up, put characters in stealth, and because of all that she is very good. She has a problem that she's a protector, so will be in conflict with Yo-Yo, but she will not be in conflict, for example, with Captain America or with She-Hulk or with Hulk or Colobzino or whatever. So she is in this regard she is way more versatile than Yo-Yo, and she also gives stats to herself. So based on all that, I think she's definitely worth of the A tier. And finally we have the S tier, and on the S tier we have 2 characters that I think are worth being here. We have Symbiote Spider-Man and Anti-Venom. Symbiote Spider-Man is here because he by himself can do so much. Stun one character, apply slow for 2 turns, extend negative effects on the enemies for 1 extra turn, apply bleeds, apply offense down, heal himself with drain, heal himself with his passive ability, and what else? He also gives HP to himself and to other symbiote allies or Spider-Verse hero allies, so he does so much that he has to be S tier. And finally we have Anti-Venom. He can also be a very plug and play character. He can apply immunity to allies, he can remove heal block, he can provide a lot of regeneration, he can also apply negative effects to the enemies and so on. And I put him on S tier because he's also a symbiote character, and because other symbiote characters were on S tier and A tier. So together these 3 symbiotes, they are very strong. If you want to add Venom to the mix, he's going to be very strong as well. Going beyond that, going for the 5th symbiote, I don't think is worth it. For me, I would just stay on the 3 symbiotes up here, maybe Venom, or you can go 3 symbiotes and then Invisible Woman or Captain America or Squirrel Girl or something like this, and make a team based around these characters. I would suggest maybe, I have no experience with this, but based on my theory crafting, I would say the 3 symbiotes plus Invisible Woman and plus Captain America would probably be the best team. But once again, this is based on my playstyle. Once again, this is based on my theory crafting and experience on the boss node. If you guys have any experience with any of the characters on the D, E or F tier, and you think they are way better than I make them sound to be, let me know in the comments below. And that's going to be the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, you know what to do. Smash that like button like a boss. Once again, make sure you share this information with your friends, because this is going to be very important for not only the Isolate tier 2 but also the Doom raids. And if you are still trying to do the Dark Dimension 4, maybe you should focus on these characters on top rather than focus on someone else at the bottom. And also your silver promotion credits, if you want to invest a little bit more in some of these characters and get them a little bit higher, I think that information is also very important. So if you like this information, like always, make sure you share it with your friends on Facebook and Discord. If you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe for more Marvel Strike Force content, and I will catch you guys later.